Give you the scoop on bird seed and tell you which seeds birds like best. If you offer your feathered friends a buffet of seed, you'll attract a crowd.
Then we'll take an up-close and personal look at that comedic fisherman par excellence, the incredible brown pelican. It has an amazing fishing technique. It dives into the water head first. Ouch!
Does it get a headache?
I don't know.
Next, we're going to southern Arizona to some really great birding spots where you'll see some special birds. The acorn woodpecker, one of my favorites, Mexican jays, and hepatic tanagers.
Then we'll take time out to watch the graceful swallowtail kite as it soars through the air.
So stay tuned for Stokes Birds at Home.
Major funding for Stokes Birds at Home is provided by
Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse. Lowe's Lawn and Garden, improving home improvement.
Additional funding is provided by Birders World magazine, where birding adventures begin, featuring full-color photography, expert birding tips, and birding hotspots.
Swift Instruments, binoculars designed with birders in mind.
Droll Yankees, makers of bird feeders engineered with a lifetime warranty. And by Mrs. E.K. von Mertens.
Well, today I'm going to give you this straight scoop on birdseed. In previous shows, I've talked to you about the importance of sunflower seed, and in fact, this is the #1 choice of the greatest variety of birds. But you know, there are so many other wonderful bird seeds. An important concept is the fact that different birds prefer different seeds. It's kind of like people. Take, for example, in our family, Don likes chicken, I like fish, especially salmon, my daughter is mostly a vegetarian, and my son will eat anything. I'm going to give you a quick field guide to the major kinds of bird seed and who eats them. If you really want to go for the gold, choose thistle seed for those American goldfinches. This tiny black seed does not come from our native wildflower. It's imported from Asia and Africa. It's sterilized when it's imported, so it doesn't germinate under your feeder. In addition to goldfinches, it's the favorite of many other members of the finch family. In the West, you can attract lesser goldfinches with this seed. In the winter, if you're lucky, 2 other kinds of finches may show up at your bird feeder. The pine siskin is streaked brown and has yellow on the wings. The perky common red pole is streaked brown and has a wonderful little red cap. Offer thistle in a specialized feeder just for thistle seed. This is a thistle feeder, and it has tiny little holes to contain the thistle seed. Now, don't put sunflower in this feeder. The sunflowers won't fit through the holes. It was specially made for the thistle seed. I'm going to pour it in like this, fill the feeder up. Another advantage of thistle is that squirrels really don't come to the seed. Goldfinches feed as a flock, so if you really want to accommodate lots of goldfinches, you can even put up more than 1 thistle feeder. Peanuts are a wonderful food for birds. These are not salted cocktail peanuts that you get at the supermarket. Buy these at a birdseed store. These are loved by birds like woodpeckers. We have a red-bellied woodpecker that especially likes this. Carolina wrens will come to this, as well as chickadees and titmice and nuthatches. You want to put the peanuts in a special feeder. This wonderful little mesh contains the peanuts and allows the birds to take bite-sized pieces. You take the whole peanuts and you just pour it in. One of the things I like about this feeder is that the wire mesh allows a lot of birds to cling and get to the peanuts. particularly birds like those little nuthatches, the ones that go down the tree trunk head first, white-breasted and red-breasted nuthatches, will really enjoy this. A newer seed to the bird feeding market is called safflower, gleaming white safflower. This is a high oil seed, so it gives birds lots of energy. Birds like cardinals really like safflower. In addition, it's also eaten by house finches, chickadees, and titmice. One of the very best things people have discovered about safflower is that it is usually not eaten by squirrels and grackles. Got a grackle problem and they're overrunning your other feeders? Offer safflower and a lot of your birds will go to the safflower seed. Notice I said usually not eaten by squirrels. I never say never when it comes to squirrels. There's probably some squirrels out there that have developed a taste for safflower. Cracked corn is an economical seed. This is broken into tiny little pieces so a lot of the smaller birds can eat it. It's amazing how many birds will eat cracked corn. Jays will eat this, cardinals will eat this, but most of all, it's enjoyed by birds that feed on or near the ground. Things like pheasant and quail, and a lot of the little sparrows like white-crowned sparrows and white-throated sparrows will come to cracked corn. This itty-bitty seed is called white millet. It's grown in the middle part of the United States, and sometimes when it's hulled, it's used in multigrain bread. Millet is enjoyed by a variety of birds such as cardinals and buntings and finches, but mostly it's really a favorite of many of the little sparrows that come to your feeder. In winter, the little snowbirds, as they're called, juncos, come down for the north and go to your feeders, and they like to feed on the ground. In addition, white-throated sparrows, white-crowned sparrows, chipping sparrows, and one of my favorite sparrows, the large, beautiful fox sparrow, will come to seed like millet. This red BB-sized seed over here is called milo, also called sorghum. Now, of all the seeds, it's probably the least favorite of birds, but in fact there are birds that do eat it. Birds like mourning doves and some sparrows. Quail eat this, and interestingly enough, they found that in the west more birds eat milo than in the east. Certainly there are jays and towhees and some sparrows and quail in the west that will eat milo. Excluding thistle, the seeds I've shown you make up the majority of bird seed mixes that are on the market. One of the most wonderful advantages of bird seed mixes is that it's like a big buffet for birds. There's something to please everyone's palate. A great way to offer bird seed mix is in a feeder like this that goes on your deck. You can screw it right on the corner of your deck. This little grate keeps out squirrels and larger birds, and little birds like chickadees and nuthatches and juncos can come in and eat the mixed seed. So remember, a good bird feeding program consists of definitely sunflower and then a really good bird seed mix. You'll attract the widest possible variety of birds. And if you want to have a bird feeding party, put it in a really big feeder.
That was like a little field guide to seeds. I love being able to tell all the different kinds.
Remember, the greater the variety of seeds you use, the greater variety of birds you'll attract.
And more birds are definitely better. Now it's time for our mystery bird of the week. See if you can guess who it is before we tell you the answer.
Clue number 1. This bird will nest near human habitations if given the right nesting structures. Clue number 2. The immature of this species spends the first 2 years of its life on the wintering grounds.
Those are hard clues. Is this a house wren?
I'm not telling. While you're thinking about the clues, let's take a closer look at the fabulous brown pelican. With their long beak, large pouch, and large body, very few birds look as strange and awkward as the brown pelican. It's hard to believe that it's one of our most graceful flyers and ingenious feeders. Let's take a closer look at some of the natural history of this amazing bird. There are many different plumages of brown pelicans. It takes a brown pelican 3 to 4 years to acquire adult plumage, and before that, you can see 2 different plumages by looking at the bird's belly. In its first year, a brown pelican has a brown head and white belly. In its second to third year, its belly turns gray. Finally, as an adult, its head becomes white and its belly black. Brown pelicans feed by opening their bill and capturing a great deal of water in their pouch. They then carefully drain out the water through the edges of their bill and then swallow the fish they've caught. In shallow water, they may just strike with their bill while swimming, as these birds are doing close to shore. When the water is deeper, they often take short flights with crash landings that fill their pouch with water and hopefully fish. It's amazing how agile they are for such a large bird and how quickly they can take off. Here are several birds taking higher dives into the ocean. Look how synchronized they seem to be. This may improve their chances of catching fish, each one essentially scaring fish into the other's bill. The most spectacular feeding occurs when brown pelicans are flying high as they search for fish. When they spot some, they tuck in their wings and do a deep and spectacular dive.
Adults can have two different plumages depending on whether they're breeding. The all-white neck of this adult shows that this bird is not breeding. In this plumage, the feathers on the head are yellowish. Breeding birds develop a beautiful chocolate-colored stripe up the back of their neck. This stripe indicates that this bird is actively raising young. Here's a bird that's in between. The gray area on the back of its neck is the brown feathers just starting to grow in. The individuals we've been seeing are all from the East Coast. On the West Coast, many birds are even more colorful and have bright orange to red pouches and orange to red on the tips of their bills. Brown pelicans have a huge wingspan of over 7 feet. These powerful wings lift them quickly as they take off. Look at the long wing feathers of this flying bird and how the deep flaps speed the bird along. Groups of brown pelicans flying seem to partially coordinate their flapping and gliding. Watch how when one glides, the others tend to do the same. Flying pelicans can form loose formations, occasionally creating a diagonal line of birds, but these never seem to last too long. The birds also have wonderful abilities to control their flight so that they can glide just inches over the water. Next time you're along the southern seacoast, look for brown pelicans and take a moment to enjoy their feeding and flying abilities.
Brown pelicans are so entertaining to watch.
I know, I love the way they dive, and each bird seems to have so much personality.
Speaking of personalities, give our viewers some more mystery bird clues.
Okay, the third clue is this bird eats almost exclusively fish. And finally, throughout the breeding period, the male brings the female all of her food.
Really? That sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, raw fish. What's up next?
Next, we're going to southeast Arizona to some wonderful birding spots to see some very special birds. Southeastern Arizona is one of the best places to go birding in all of North America. There are two reasons for this. One is that there's a tremendous variety of habitats in a relatively small area. The other is that you can see many species that are primarily Mexican, but whose ranges extend just across the border into Arizona. Join us on a trip through this area as we visit 4 different birding hotspots. The first is Mount Lemmon, right outside Tucson. At the first pullout on the drive up the mountain, you can see saguaro cactus and get great views of the city below. We pause to watch a gilded flicker peck at the fruit of a cactus. A little farther up, the habitat changes from desert to canyons filled with scrub oaks. Here we saw Mexican jays around a picnic area. A canyon towhee foraged for seeds on the ground. And we got a brief view of a bridle titmouse with its distinctive facial pattern. Near the top of the mountain, the views were spectacular.
We then drove south of Tucson to Madeira Canyon. Up in the canyon is Santa Rita Lodge, a place with little cabins where you can stay overnight. Some feeders are set up there, making the birding really easy. At the hummingbird feeders, we saw this magnificent hummingbird. A male broad-billed hummingbird perched in a tree overhead and then came down to the feeder for a drink. Acorn woodpeckers with their clown-like faces were common. And white-breasted nuthatches took seeds from the feeders and stored them in bark crevices. A little stream runs through the canyon, and its muddy edges had California sisters, butterflies with orange-tipped wings. A path for birdwatchers follows the edge of the stream. Here we spotted a female hepatic tanager, recognized by her grayish cheek. And a young male black-headed grosbeak was perched among the treetops as well. On our way out of the canyon, we came across a black bear rolling in the lush vegetation.
Our next stop was the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area. This is a large lowland area along the San Pedro River. A small visitor center and a gift shop is a welcoming touch, and a beautiful big tree behind it provides shade for all. Near the entrance, a ladder-backed woodpecker was resting in the heat of the afternoon. Out in the grasslands, we saw vermilion flycatchers. Both the female here and the bright red male perched on top of a small shrub. Below him was a lesser goldfinch pecking out seeds from a dried weed stem.
Our final destination was farther east in Portal. This tiny town is nestled in some rugged but beautiful terrain. A long time ago, Sally Spofford and her late husband put up feeders and started inviting bird watchers to come watch their feeder birds. There are feeders of all kinds as well as water, brush piles, and native plantings. A canyon towhee gave alarm calls and raised its crest, while a cliff chipmunk showed up in the background to see what all the fuss was about. A curve-billed thrasher spent most of its time in and around the brush pile. And acorn woodpeckers loved the peanut butter that was spread into tree crevices everywhere. Sally has provided several places for water. These Buick's wrens seem to prefer the pan under the hose faucet. The bird bath was a favorite of male house finches. And the chipmunk took a long drink from the ground-level rock filled with water. From the top of a nearby tree, a white-winged dove looked down over the feeders. And we watched as a young male black-headed grosbeak gave an interesting display where he quivered his wings and repeatedly gave a little down-slurred whistle. Of course, the sugar water feeders had their share of hummers, as always seems to be the case in the Southwest. We hope this trip inspires you to visit southeastern Arizona and see its gorgeous scenery and exciting birds. The swallow-tailed kite is one of our most spectacular hawks, with its striking black and white feathers and amazingly long forked tail. It's a graceful flyer that catches insects in the air with its feet and then transfers them to its mouth while still flying. Take a moment with us to watch this individual that we filmed in Florida.
The swallowtail kite has got to be one of the birds to watch in flight.
I know, I never get enough of it.
It's time to summarize the mystery bird clues for our viewers. Don?
Okay, the first clue was this bird can nest near human houses if given the right structures. The second clue was that the immature birds stay on the wintering grounds for their first 2 years. 3, the bird eats almost exclusively fish. And finally, the male brings the female all of her food during breeding. And the answer is...
Did you guess it? The osprey.
The osprey is a type of hawk that lives all around the world. It can be recognized in flight by the bold black and white pattern of its underwings, the slight downward bow of its wings as it soars, and its white head with a thick black line through the eye. Ospreys are almost exclusively fish eaters. Often hovering in mid-air as they search for fish to dive down upon and catch. The nests of ospreys are usually placed at the top of tall, often dead trees. Their nest is huge and made of large sticks. The bird breaks off dead trees with its powerful feet while flying by. During breeding, the male gathers almost all the food for himself and his mate. You can tell this is a male by his all-white breast. After catching a fish, he usually eats part of it before taking the rest to the female, who waits at the nest. In the early stages of breeding, before she has young, she takes the fish and feeds on it elsewhere. You can recognize the female by a band of darker feathers on her breast. While she feeds, the male usually guards the nest from any possible danger.
When the young have hatched, the female tears off bits of food and places it in their bills. When they're older, as here, the nestlings may try to eat the food on their own. This nestling is unsuccessful, so the mother takes the fish and tears it into smaller bits. Here are 2 nestlings about 6 weeks old. One's alert, the other seems to be taking a nap. Young ospreys are ready to leave the nest when about 8 weeks old. At this stage, they look much like the adults, except their dark wing feathers are all tipped with white. As long as ospreys can get enough fish, they can live almost anywhere. If you're near a lake, large river, or the ocean, look for ospreys hunting and breeding. You know, the osprey is a great bird to watch.
I know. I love the way it does those up and down roller coaster flights. You know, a lot of viewers have asked us about Daisy, and we thought we'd take a moment to tell you about her.
Daisy is a Pembroke Welsh Corgi. That's a herding breed. Daisy came to us from a breeder in Massachusetts, and she came to live with us on Don's birthday.
You may recognize corgis because they're the dogs that are owned by the Queen of England. They're actually bred to herd cattle, and they nip at their heels. And don't be fooled by her short legs. She's incredibly fast.
Corgis like to run and chase, so ball playing is one of Daisy's favorite activities.
Well, that's all for today. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Join us next time on Stokes Birds at Home.
Do you have questions about birds? Visit Don and Lillian at stokesbirdsathome.com for answers, tips, and resources. To order companion products for Stokes Birds at Home, call 1-800-338-8440. The 450-page Stokes Field Guide to Birds includes more than 900 color photographs with color tab indexes to make bird identification easy. Also available is a multi-CD collection, the Stokes Field Guide to Bird Songs. Prices include shipping and handling. Order by calling 1-800-338-8440. Credit cards are accepted.
I don't think CBS realized